$30 a month, when people are going to qualify on their debt ratios, it does not make a big difference on debt ratio. Whatever they qualified for under the 30-year loan, they'll qualify for maybe $15,000 or $20,000 more in house price on a 50-year loan with a $130 a month payment difference. So it doesn't get more that many more people qualified. I mean, if it does, like I said, it's $10,000 or $20,000 more in house price that it would get them qualified for.
So Robert, I'm going to get to all hands, I promise. Robert, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that the White House between Trump and Pulte and Besson, like, they don't know this? What is this just a marketing campaign to show that they're trying to get, housing fixed, affordability fixed?
I mean, that's the question. I mean, the Spitfire, even just some rudimentary research on it, shows that it doesn't do much. They would have to go and change the QM rules if it's going to be delivered to Fannie or Freddie. Otherwise, lenders would have to hold it like other non-QM loans, which are like your bank statement loans, your investor loans, which qualify on rental income rather than income. And those things, the rates on those are quite a bit higher than a QM loan. So if the rate goes much higher than 0.5% higher than a normal 30, then you're eliminating any savings on it. So I don't know what they're doing, Spitfire and stuff, just trying to show people that they're trying to do stuff, get conversations going. I don't know. I don't know the purpose behind it.
All right, let's go to Paul, then to Gary, then to Dave, then to Eladio. Go, Paul.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Yeah, so we were talking about it over the weekend and was on a call with you, too. And the main issue I see is from the investor side. Like, this mortgage is not quite financeable. And why is that? It's because, I guess, two reasons. One, a traditional investor that buys mortgages, they need like a 30 or a 31 year final maturity. So they really have to do something like a 50 due in 30, a balloon, and the balloons are not. Money managers, insurance companies, etc. Like there's a place that you can go with it, but it can't be the traditional financing market just because it doesn't fit. It's too long. All the insurance companies will have to change their kind of docs and buy boxes. It's doable, but I think like the QM qualification, the QM designations, those aren't going to change. I don't think those are going to change anytime soon. So you got to make the investors change what they want to buy, and maybe they don't want to do that right now.
All right, Gary, over to you, sir.
Yeah, seems to me, I mean, I would just ask, I think we're making a little bit more out of this than various cap taxes and stuff, but I would just ask the audience, is there really a difference between 30, 40, 50, 60, 70? I mean, it's just a duration. No one stays in the house that long. So if somebody's going to loan me money, and by the way, I'm not convinced that the 50, 60, 100 year comes with a higher interest rate, guys. We're assuming that rates are going to be high, but if rates go down to 2.5%, 3%, I think if somebody loans me 50-year money at 4 or 5%, I'm taking it.
No, Gary,
all day long.
we're saying that the 50-year rate will be higher than the 30-year rate.
We're making that assumption.
Well, yeah, the yield curve is
But-
almost always steep.
But okay, let's say it is. Would you borrow money for 50 years at 4.5%, 5%, knowing that it's 100 basis points more than a 30-year?
No.
See, I would. I'd borrow that money all day long. Now, I may not want to buy a house with it. Okay?
Yeah, see, I would be 84 when I
But,
pay the loan off.
but listen, the truth is you rarely pay these houses, these mortgages off, guys. You make money on a house the moment you buy it, and if you don't buy it right, you're probably not going to make money on it. And the longer you keep it, the more money you spend on maintaining that house. It's like a power station. It requires you to fix it and put energy in it. So it's not an asset. It is a machine that uses things and provides protection for people. But I just don't see the difference in 30 years and 50 years. No one stays in a 30-year mortgage. Anyway, I'll end there.
All right, cool. Oh, by the way, I do have to go ahead and give voice to one of our listeners who said that this is about promoting investment in existing multifamily and construction of new multifamily. I came back and said, I don't understand. Do you mean condo owners or do you mean multifamily in terms of builders and landlords? And this is not, if so, it's not about home ownership. It's about more renters. And that person came back and said, yes, this seems to be all about just a supply issue of housing, not necessarily home ownership. I don't know if that's necessarily correct in terms
It's
of.
a very powerful message, Dave, from the administration. We are going to put steroids into the market. We're going to, and it's a trial balloon too. Hey, are we going to get interest? My brother will buy $1 billion worth of real estate if these rates drop, and he got 30 and 40 years. He will ATM this thing to death. He'll just go borrow the shit out of money.
Right. So I agree with you in terms of the trial balloon, in terms of at worst a bunch of marketing, in terms of the administration showing that it's thinking about all the options that are available in order to increase housing, bring down the cost of housing eventually as the final result of this. And yes, we've learned from Trump that a lot of things get said, thrown at the wall, see what sticks. Don't take everything all that seriously, but there is always the outside chance, and anything and everything he says, no matter how outlandish, is incredibly serious. So yeah, I mean the spectrum is quite wide. In any event, David Koski, over to you, sir.
Yeah, I think there's, when I first heard about it, I thought it was, oh my gosh, we're just gonna financially engineer our way out of this. And when you listen to what Grant said, it is true. Most people don't stay in their house forever, and you have the option of paying down money early, right? You can change a 50-year mortgage into a 20 if you want, right? You just put more to the principal. Some countries you never own a house. In Switzerland, the bank owns the house. You just basically rent it from them. If you get capital appreciation out of it, and when you sell it, you get to keep the capital appreciation, and the bank literally takes back the house. Okay, or you pay the house off with the proceeds, but another bank is financing it. I think what's worse here is that the administration is talking about reworking the FICO score. So apparently something that has worked pretty effectively throughout time, and you go through recessions and FICO scores drop, but if we start re-engineering what a FICO score is, and go to the buy a burrito and finance it over 3 months, and it doesn't count to your FICO score, I mean that to me is a worse deal. And to top that off, doing 15-year car loans, the average car today doesn't last 15 years. I mean, you will own nothing. I think is where we're going here. Is so many other countries do this. Japan's had long duration mortgages. Europe has very similar system when it comes to housing. If someone from Europe is in here, I would love to hear your take on what I said. have friends over there that just came and visited me for a week from Switzerland, and that was the way I understood it. There's obviously some degree of language barrier, but just I think everyone can be right, but we won't know the effects until later. I'll end with there.
They're going to do everything to subsidize demand and not fix the underlying problem, which is the housing market. Housing is too expensive.
Yeah, well,
and rates are too high.
You have the baby boomers. The average age is 69 or 70 right now. Over the next 10 to 15 years, I think it's 30% of baby boomers own 2 houses, right? They're at the age where they can't take care of the second home. The kids have moved out. I mean, sometimes there's just a natural progression, right? Over the long term, house prices fall and house prices rise. Effectively what happened here is all this COVID money got unleashed, and no one wants to part with their house when they got a low mortgage rate. I think it's. I hear the comments about the baby boomers, why they did this. You know what? If you grew up at the same period, you would have done the same thing. There's no one in this room that wouldn't have taken a low rate mortgage, or years ago it was common to stay in a job for 40 years. Today, most young, and I know a lot of people that run businesses, they do no calls, no shows constantly. I mean, it is crazy. My girlfriend runs a nursing home. You get a traveling nurse, doesn't show up for 4 days, no call, no show. They are making absolute tremendous amounts of money, and this happens every day. So, those are things that bug the crap out of me. Sitting here, and I'm not a baby boomer, but the younger generation does not know how to sit in a place and be happy, put a smile on their face. You're even having, what's the recent retail outlet that said you got to smile? Like, it's just common sense. We don't have it in today's society.
Gary's going to Target with his smile on later today. But yes, David Nikoski, totally agree with you. David Nikoski, could you please accept the co-host invite so that we can have some more speakers up here on stage? Eladio, then to X-Finance, then to Professor, and then we got to change the topic. So let's go, Eladio.
Financial engineering doesn't fix problems. The biggest problem I see here, I mean, somebody, I think it was David, mentioned Europe and Japan, and every time I hear Europe does something, I want to run the other way, because nothing they've done in the last 20 years has done anything but other than make Airbus the most valuable company that Europe has. They've lost all leadership in technology. There's this thing called causality. Okay, that's why I love the Merovingi in the Matrix. You have to know why something happens. I mean, I think Infra's going to make a career of, or Robert is going to make a career of talking about dollar debasement, but yet everybody loves the seesaw. Over time, the dollar loses value, and the other side of the seesaw, assets go up in value. I guess the hope is that we can debase the dollar even more and increase property values more than the fact that you've basically made the bank your landlord. You're not really ever gaining anything on the equity of your home unless you do what David Nikoski suggests, which means be responsible and actually pay more than your mortgage payment, so you could actually turn the 50 into 30. And all I see is a country that just continues to go back to what it's done. Personally, I don't think the dollar debasement, Robert, really took place to the degree that it did after the GFC. I think quantitative easing is the most damaging thing that has ever been done. It may have gotten us out of the GFC because Bernanke had studied the Great Depression in Princeton. That was his dissertation. He got us out, but to be fair to Bernanke, he got us out of quantitative easing. But it's more of the same. Let's just continue to incestuously create money to buy the debt, and our spending continue continues, it's sort of no different. In fact, I see QE no different than Obamacare. It subsidized two insurance companies. It made prices go up. In the same way with student loans. Student loans, who benefited the most from student loans? All the schools that were able to raise tuition prices at much faster rates. When are we going to have intelligent people that sit there and solve the problem? It's just mind-boggling to me. So I'm not I'm not crazy about it. I don't think it's a major deal, but you're never going to own a home if you have a 50-year mortgage and pay the mortgage, because you're going to die first probably. So I think it's time to actually address the real problems instead of playing these little games to make people feel like they own a home, because all you're doing is making someone think that they own a home when it's really the bank who owns it with twice the interest that you're going to have to pay over a 50-year period.
Oh, you know what? Let me just say something real quick, because I hear this so often. When are we going to have intelligent people solve the problem? And I love Eladia. I think Eladia is one of the most brilliant people that I've heard and listened to on here, and have been lucky to follow along. But like, we're the intelligent people. I'm going to say you all are the intelligent people. Exclude myself here, but we're the people that should be coming up with these solutions and being a part of the solution. And like, I think it's kind of counterproductive for us to just say, well, you know, it all sucks, this is a terrible idea. Well, we've been in a fairly shitty housing market for a long time. This is a solution. Maybe it's not the right solution, but I kind of agree with what Gary was saying. Like, this is something, at least they're trying something. We can all sit here and say it's not going to work, but I don't know of any of us that are sitting here working together hand in hand with the administration to throw out our ideas. Like, we can sit here and talk on Finance Daily every day, which is fantastic, but maybe we should be sitting there and actually having conversations with the administration. I've gone and testified before Congress. Yeah, I've gone and testified before Congress. I've submitted bills. My name is on a few different bills for things. Like, we have to be the ones that take these steps, and if we're not willing to, then I think we should be a little bit more careful about just poo-pooing on every idea that they come up with. The administration is trying. My generation, millennials, is suffering in the housing market. It's only getting worse for you know, the generations that come after me. So, you know, we have to do something. Yeah, it may be extreme, but it's something.
Awesome. X-Finance to you, man, then to Professor, then we roll.
Hey everyone. Well, I basically totally disagree that this is any way good for anybody here at the table. Gary, I don't agree with your vision. This is not for the people. This is to create more dependency, less ownership. It's basically a big broken band-aid. It's going to keep the housing market propped up. You know, it's going to keep market liquid, but it stops housing prices to crash basically, and it creates longer dependency for renters. It's once again taking away the ability to own, invest, and own capital. So I definitely don't see it, and I'm sorry to be a negative Nancy this morning, but I don't see anything positive for this move at all. That's basically what I got this morning.
Professor, over to you.
Well, I disagree that we just have to do something. There are bad decisions, and just doing something because something has to be done is still bad. But, you know, ironically, it's a great way to short the U.S. dollar. Like, look, if you go back and say, hey, I took a 50-year mortgage 50 years ago, and you compare what your payments are to what you're making now, it turned out to be a great deal. You know, granted, you know, if it's 100 basis points higher, as Robert has stated, it's not a good deal. So, you know, the rates and everything are going to be an issue. So we'll have to see how that ultimately actually plays out. But, you know, if you're telling me that maybe it's 25 or 50 instead of 100, yeah, I'll probably do a cash out refinance, then move out, buy something else with another one, and then rent that one for the capital appreciation, the long-term inflation of the asset. I'm borrowing at a fixed rate compared to the inflation of the dollar. Ultimately, you'll come out ahead in the long term. But let's face it, the people who are going to be applying for this aren't really smart enough to actually be able to take advantage of it. So it's kind of slapping a band-aid on a large caliber rifle wound. It's not going to address the problem, right? We have a supply problem that we keep trying to address with financial instruments, etc., to increase demand. This is never a workable solution. They need to address the supply problem more than anything else. But we also have a fixed supply of where people want to live and ever increasing demand. Until we actually come up with something like Hyperloop or give the people the ability to live in other places and easily commute where jobs are, this is an unworkable solution. Pricing's always going to get higher no matter how it's addressed. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to, one
Oh.
second, Dave. I am having problems bringing some people up, so I tried to bring some people up and it's not letting me, so, just if you're out there, you can come back in the room and maybe I can bring you up. Thank you.
Eladio, you want to have the last word on this?
Austerity. The one thing that Americans can no longer do, austerity. Look at the fit that the Democratic Party had because the Obamacare extensions expired and the BBB bill basically took money longer term from Obamacare subsidies and Medicaid by saving about $500 billion over 10 years. And that's how they paid for all the stimulus that's going to be pumped into the problem. Austerity is a word nobody's ever going to practice ever again. Because the minute, everybody loves talking these big talking points, cutting. Let's cut. Yes, until that cut affects the person that is actually receiving the aid because we're getting more aid. I saw a stat, the amount of people that are on food stamps just blew me away at this juncture. And the fact of the matter is until we change our ways, and I don't think we're going to change our ways, and that's sad because every party decides that they're going to have a temper tantrum once their side gets cut for whatever reason, and we're gonna, look what happened. We just shut the government down for over 40 days because let's be honest, one party had a temper tantrum over the BBB. In the end, that's a temper because when you lose an election, in the old days you used to respect, but there aren't any solutions. And we're going to go back to quantitative easing because look what the Fed just did. They just set the table again, didn't they, David? They just actually announced that quantitative tightening is ending. Well, to me, and I know Robert agrees, that means they're waiting for something to break. I don't know if it's in private debt, as we're seeing more cracks or whatever it is. And they're going to come in and they're going to save the day as they always have and make everybody think that it's great because assets go up exponentially when the Fed then steps in and does and adds liquidity. Why do you think crypto's had such terrible trouble after that last Fed meeting in trying to catch a bid? Because it's a liquidity animal. It's expecting for bad policy to debase the dollar so that crypto or other assets will go up in its context. Well, look what happens. We're still extracting ourselves out of COVID. Okay, we injected, I think, more liquidity into the system during COVID, or about as much. I think it took us to 10 trillion, I believe, in the balance sheet. Excuse me, it wasn't 10 trillion. It's a billion. It was $1 billion balance sheet. I'd have to look back at the math. But the bottom line, it's the same old story. Until we solve the problem, and the problem is simple. We need to stop borrowing excessive amounts of money. Put something like Warren Buffett has suggested that once you get to a certain level, if the politicians will lose the right to stay in office if they spend beyond a certain ratio. Solving the problem is not making people feel like they own a home when they actually still don't, because the bank is the one who actually still owns it for the most of those 50 years.
Okay, so look, I'm going to close this. This is not going to be the last conversation on this on the housing market. I think that the Trump administration is aware of the point of, the issue here is the supply side of the equation, and maybe to the listener's point that said this construction more than it is about single home ownership for the first time buyer. That's maybe true, and that'll just bring more supply online. Again, that'll be rental properties, but nevertheless, more property is still more property. We'll defer the additional discussion on this because, like I said, I think we've still got 3+ years left of presidential administration here, and I think it knows that this, by the way, is probably, after handling a lot of the stuff that it handled thus far, this is probably one of the most important domestic issues that it's got, and clearly heard loud and clear from the word affordability that was used ad nauseum in the New York City election race, that this is what it's about. And so, if 3+ years from now, the Republican Party has a chance of hanging on, they're going to have to go ahead and at least try to address the issue. Eladio, you have something to add?
No.
Oh, okay.
Agreeing with everything you have to say.
Oh, sorry, I just saw the hand up. I did want to move through a couple of things quickly and then get to another discussion. On the crypto front, a couple of important things. First of all, U.S. Treasury and the IRS said that Ethereum and Solana staking products can offer payouts to their investors. So that means you can now get paid your yield as opposed to the yield accumulating inside of the ETF. Those ETFs can now distribute their yield, which I think is important. I think it's good. There's no reason why it shouldn't be that way. We started, just to remind you, under Gensler's SEC, the Ethereum ETF was approved, but staking was not allowed. Since Trump's administration started, staking is now allowed, and not only is staking now allowed, but whatever is earned off of that staking can now, pursuant to the terms of the ETF, if it wants to or doesn't want to, it can offer payouts of that yield to investors. So there could be current income coming from those ETFs. Second point, Block, Square, whatever you want to call the company, will allow immediately 4 million merchants worldwide to accept Bitcoin payments with 0 fees until 2027 using the Lightning Network. It's a nice headline. I don't think people are out there using their Bitcoin all that often. I don't think that that's where we're going, at least in this country, where I think stablecoins is going to be what it is. But maybe elsewhere in the world, this is important. Again, that's my own commentary on this, but the announcement is what it is. MicroStrategy and DATs, generally digital asset treasury companies, have been beaten down pretty hard in terms of their MNAV or their multiple over net asset value. Some have gone below 1. Some are still just around 1 or above 1. In any event, the whole point of me saying that is Jim Chanos, legendary short trader who no longer runs a fund but just runs his family office, has been short because the Ag Committee, which is essentially tied to the CFTC, and a thoughtful committee at that, is part of the draft is giving the CFTC regulation authority to regulate the digital commodity trading, including Bitcoin, Ether, and anything else that falls into that bucket. We have bipartisan agreed to language on that now, which will now move into the Senate. We may, in fact, get some movement on the Clarity Act before year end, and I think that that is very important. The other thing I wanted to mention that people should know, SoftBank has sold its entire NVIDIA position for $5.8 billion, and the explanation was it needs the cash to fund its OpenAI investment. So, good for SoftBank, knowing its liquidity needs, knowing that it's made a lot of money on NVIDIA, knowing that it should just go ahead and, take the gains and shift into what they hope is another money-making venture of similar return size. Thankfully, there is the liquidity in the market to go ahead and take that $5.8 billion of NVIDIA stock, and there isn't a hiccup here, right? You could imagine if we were at a different point in time where liquidity wasn't as robust, that pivot wouldn't be so easy. Thankfully it is, and for the overall ecosystem, which we now know needs trillions of dollars of investment, whether it be in chips, whether it be in technology and AI development, whether it be in data centers, whether it be in power, there is a lot of money that needs to be spent in the ecosystem over the next number of years. And so the ability of SoftBank to prepare for that is something that we should be thankful for, in this market. It may get rockier from here. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a little bit rockier from here on out. Just with respect to what I announced yesterday regarding the BBC and the memos that came out and the resignation of two very high up folks, no surprise, Trump is now threatening to sue the BBC for $1 billion regarding its January 6th documentary. We'll see where that goes, but our president, he likes to use the courts whenever he can to his advantage. All right, we need to get to Open Door, and maybe we'll go ahead and rehash this if and when either Keith Raboy, who commented on my post on X, who is the CEO of the company, or maybe he's not CEO, maybe he's the chairman, or if either George Noble or Eric Jackson wants to go ahead and comment on this. I invited all of them to the show today, but on late notice. But we got to talk about what happened yesterday with Open Door, because it's something incredibly unique. I don't think you'll start to see a lot of other companies doing this. That's my opinion. But nevertheless, you need to understand the dynamics of this. So what Open Door did yesterday is they came out and said they are declaring a special dividend to shareholders, but not your normal dividend. They're not giving out cash. They're giving shareholders warrants. Warrants are valuable only if the share price goes higher and crosses the strike price on the warrant. So the immediate incentive for shareholders is, if you want your warrants to be valuable and in the money, you'll pump the stock price even higher than it is right now. And no less important, those warrants become more valuable if the volatility on the stock is greater. The greater the volatility, the more valuable the warrant. Okay? That's just the way warrant pricing or option pricing is going to work. So it takes what is already a rapidly meme stock community invested in that company that already has a substantial short interest in the stock as well, right? I think the percentage is like 30 to 40% of the float is short, and encourages the investors on the long side to go ahead and make what was a kiddie ride into a roller coaster, right? Let's see how far we can make the share price swing on any given day. And the spin by the management of the company was, well, we management, we get compensated in warrants, right? That's how we make our money, right? We get options on the stock. So we want our shareholders to feel like management. We want them to have as much skin in the game and make money, oodles of money, when we make money. It's not enough that you own the stock and already your interests are aligned with management. No. We want you to have the exact same instrument that we have, which is incredible, right? It's not enough to own the stock, but we actually want to give you the same thing that we have. Oh, by the way, if your warrants are in the money, if you make your warrants be in the money, if you create the volatility, lo and behold, surprise, surprise, management also benefits tremendously. And by the way, management has no way of creating volatility in the stock to make their warrants valuable. They've now given the warrants that they own, they've duplicated them and given them to the mob and said to the mob, have at it. We'll make money, you'll make money. And the kicker of this all, is the quote of the CEO, who said as follows. I don't want to get this wrong. This is choice words. Hang on. The CEO said as follows. Why can't I find it? Nuts. Oh man, I'm sorry. Now I'm losing all the momentum, guys. My bad. This is horrible. I'm gonna find it. Oh, here we go. Quote, this is about short sellers. Quote, I mostly pity them. They don't really build anything. I mean, as a CEO, as a markets guy, that is the most ludicrous thing to say in the world. I understand that some short sellers are just vindictive assholes. On the other hand, the short market keeps people honest and allows for proper price discovery. If you could only have one way for a stock to go, for people to only go ahead and push a stock higher and not push a stock lower, that's not a market. That's not a marketplace. A marketplace is buyers and sellers, I believe, both ways. But again, I've grown up with that, so obviously,
David, let me ask you a question. Who the hell, or excuse the word, but who the hell is going to short when you have a president that every time he detects that his barometer, his favorite barometer is going to go the wrong way, goes to Korea and says, I like the things you've been doing here in Korea, in South Korea. We're limiting short selling. Maybe we should make it illegal. He says one of those things. And I'm surprised Chanos is even has a family business after the debacle he had with Tesla. I don't care how much money he's making shorting MSTR, he'll never recover the money that was lost shorting Tesla.
Oh, I agree on that. And he's also a pretty salty guy. I don't know if you know him well, but he's not a sweet dude on any level.
Right. But the point I'm making here is, you have shorts, and I know there are people in this room, and I don't know how Andrew left to survive, but the rhetoric every time to make the market prevent from breaking down at certain levels. I mean, this is obvious, and that was part of the circular financing deals that were announced in order to give the U.S., which I don't have a problem with. Let's give the U.S. cover before we negotiate with China, and they issue a statement like at the wrong time to make the semiconductor space break. God forbid, nobody can find out that this really happened here.
anyone on the other side of this. Don't go whole George on me. I don't know if you heard my characterization of the warrants package on Open Door. Wondered if you had anything to add.
I totally agree with you. Just say a couple things. Short sellers do provide useful function. They provide liquidity, and they also engage in help with price discovery. I would also point out that in academic studies done over the years, over the long run, there's significant alpha in shorting. It's hard to believe in what's happened in recent years, probably 50 years, but there's information content in what shorts do. And then I would also say if the shorts are long, long should be happy because you get to buy more stock at a price that is lower than otherwise would be the case. In the short run, as Warren Buffett said, you know, the market's a popularity contest in the long run. It's a weighing mechanism. Anything can happen. You know, they put these warrants in place with strikes. I don't remember. I think it's 9, 11, 17 or something like that. And it may be that shorts have to cover. I'm not quite sure to deliver the warrants if you're short. So in the short run, it could squeeze the price up. But you know, at the end of the day, I think we all agree in this room that stock prices follow fundamentals, and I think there's a pretty good correlation between CEOs who are most focused on short sellers and attacking them. A good inverse correlation between their attention to the shorts and their share price. You know, generate higher sales and earnings, and stock price will take care of itself. That's what Peter Lynch always taught me. So I couldn't agree with you more, David.
You know, can I say real quick, like, I don't have a problem with Kaz's comments, and what I think we're actually seeing happen is a major shift from the 90s and early 2000s where CEOs were got like
educated and do you know Alvin Toffler? Do you know Alvin Toffler or remember him, George?
The name is familiar. The name is familiar. Remind me, Eladio.
Well, he wrote 3 amazing books. I forget the name of the first one. It Shattered. The third wave. It was basically, he was a futuristic. They basically looked into the future and realized that everything, we would end up exactly where we are, where there would be centers of influence in technology that could be exploitable in the way that George Orwell outlined, obviously later in 1984. But that the whole segment of our society, especially our seniors, would be left out. I mean, for goodness sake, anytime a senior needs to do anything in healthcare, it's a nightmare now. You know, you think they're going to be able to do all that level. But let's talk about one thing that nobody talks about. And it's social media and the fact that before 20 years ago, George, when we were in the business, or 30 years ago, I was in the business started 20 years ago, that Bloomberg and CNBC, the New York, and you have the business section and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and that's pretty much it, and the Bloomberg terminal. Well, now we all have a gadget, thanks to Steve Jobs, where we have a personal computer, and everybody finds out about the most important companies immediately. And there are benefits to this. We have younger people investing. They don't have much money, but they are at least learning how markets work. But social media has changed everything. I remember being upset when Mark Baniak would constantly report. He was the CEO of Salesforce, owner of Time magazine, with his wife. Mark Baniak would always pay employees by giving them stock. But every time you get to earnings, you wouldn't get what we call, general accounting, principal earnings. We would get pro forma because he basically hid the fact that they were diluting shareholders by paying employees using stock. You know, it's not that different from what Meta just did, where they used the SPV to have the largest bond issuance of the year. I think it was $30 billion. So the point is that CEOs have changed the way they act because the minute they speak, it shows up on everybody's phone, and it's the whole world now that reacts to what Jim Plank does. And I don't have a problem with a CEO that wants stock to go up. That is their job, and I don't want to put restrictions on their rhetoric. But I agree with David. When it becomes a game to hide the bad news at any given point or accentuate the good news for just the purpose of making the stock move in a certain direction, I think it gets to be a point where you lose what the purpose is of a company, in my opinion, not just a PR stunt. And I do think, unfortunately, George, I do think fundamentals matter a lot less under the massive increase that we have in passive flows and machines. And I don't think this is a market anymore. And look, in the last 3 years, when has the market moved the most? Really, when the Fed had a meeting. So to say we have a market is difficult, and to say that fundamentals are being priced in like they were 20 or 30 years ago is ignoring the fact that everything has changed, and a lot of this market is much more psychological, pumping up and cultish actions due to how media and information propagates itself. Now, social media and your phone has changed investing forever.
George, your turn, sir.
Yeah, I agree with all that a lot. There's so much to unpack. I'll try to keep it really brief. So, increasingly, listen, accounting's not perfect. It's meant to be the best attempt to try to depict the state of events at a company. But unfortunately, it has limitations. And along the lines of what you're saying, Eladio, increasingly company managements have come to view accounting standards as an optimal course. How can we get around the accounting standards without breaking the law? Going back to Jim Chanos' concept of legal fraud. I attended a presentation a few years ago. Andy Fastow, who was worked for Jeff Skilling at Enron, who got convicted, of securities fraud. he made a presentation, and he explained how running two sets of books at Enron, one for the public shareholders and one for internal controls, and he'd go to board meetings and he could toggle back and forth on his laptop between the two presentations, and they both were appropriate, but they both were consistent with what they were trying to do. They didn't break any laws that way, but they carried it a little bit too far. And compensation scheme, the whole culture of Enron was devoted to that. And so they've totally, bastardized the situation. There's no enforcement of any regulations. People say, I'll remind folks, going back to my earlier point about price discovery and liquidity, and what David Tower was saying earlier, I mean, there's nobody's served by jacking up prices to unrealistic levels. Just go ask the former shareholders of Enron or AMC or GME. Again, worry about having higher sales and earnings, and the stock price will take care of itself. And the last thing I'll say in that regard, I think the biggest guy on stage, Elon Musk, not personally, just stating a fact, it's why I have a problem with the compensation package. It's not so much the numbers, it's what it's focusing on. It's focusing on the share price. It's focusing on EBITDA. EBITDA, and David Tower, I know you can talk about this all day long. EBITDA is a very poor substitute for earnings. You can play games with EBITDA. It totally ignores the capital intensity of the business. It misrepresents the true earnings of the company. And given that Musk has been so successful, I suspect, people, monkey see, monkey do. It's inviting imitators, and I think Kaz has got that in his head. And so this, and the last thing I'll say, this captures a lot of points about social media and bias in the accounting. It's resulting in a different form of capital allocation and a vastly inferior form of capital allocation. It's resulting in capital misallocation. It's enabling companies to get their hands on money that they should have never been able to get, but there was a bit of misunderstanding or misrepresentation. So in the end, I don't think there's any societal benefit to any of this. Thank you.
Hey, George, one more question. What about private debt and the way it has usurped the idea of what investment banking was really created for, whether it's either through borrowing and issuing debt or through issuing stock? The idea that you're actually giving money to some of the smartest people in the world, i.e. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, etc., Steve Jobs. Nobody's talking about this really new, what I consider, even in the wealth management world, a shadow banking world here, where the banks are still on the hook because they're lending these private debt. The banks are on the hook because they're lending the private debt companies that are lending money that was originally high yield money that was part of the market, traditional market.
Yep, and I'll take it one step further, Elijah. I'm totally with you. I put it in my feed yesterday. There was a story about Robinhood going to enable individual investors to invest in, I think, private funds investing in private AI funds. It'd be using leverage. Of course, it'd be illiquid because it's private. There's a reason that we have sophisticated investor rules. I don't believe that Joe Retail, looking at his thing on an iPhone, can has all the information he needs or understands all the information to make such investments. And when I hear the word democratization of finance, I mean, it just makes the hair on my back stand up. Nothing good's going to come out of all this. So I agree with you, Claudia.
Anas, good morning, sir. We need to turn to you to wrap us up, but I wanted to ask you, please, if you could comment about the meeting between Trump and Syria's president, if there was anything that came out of it and any significance to it, and then anything else you need to talk about this morning, Anas.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I am back in Dallas, and thank God I'm back after I got stuck in Istanbul airport. For some reason, after everyone from several outlets, from several planes were leaving, as they were going through the tube, all of a sudden all the doors were closed, so everyone got stuck. For some, I don't know what it is, but when you do this, just remember we talk about AI all the time, and all of a sudden all the doors are closed. On Syria, and then I will move back to energy. This is an extremely important meeting for several reasons. for Americans and Syrians and for the Syrian American community too at the same time. And when we talk about the Syrian American community, let's remember that they are of all sects, including Jews. The meeting basically was a secretive meeting. We don't know exactly what happened, but the fact that it is secretive that makes it very important. At the same time, when Trump was meeting with Ahmed Shara, the president of Syria, the EU announced that no balkanization of Syria. So it seems there is kind of an agreement on all sides that all those who are looking for kind of dividing Syria is not going to happen. At the same time, Syria, as many of you know, the destruction is similar to Gaza. Basically, it's just unbelievable. There are several cities that are completely demolished. No infrastructure, nothing. So the opportunities for U.S. companies and others, especially in the Gulf region, from the Emirates and Saudi Arabia and others, is massive. At the same time, when you look at the natural resources of Syria, there are several natural resources. Yesterday we heard about rare earth. I was surprised when I heard about it. I think that someone is making this up just to kind of make an excuse to delegitimize the cooperation between the U.S. and Syria. But it is important on all fronts in terms of investment and in terms of energy. I think we are going to see major investments. We might see the oil majors basically interested in some areas. The U.S. Army in the Northeast is planning to leave. And in lieu of that, probably we might see an American base in Syria. And the oil that is under the control of the group that is supported by the U.S. Army there will be returned to the Syrian government. However, I am very pessimistic when it comes to the oil sector in Syria. And the reason why, as I mentioned several months ago, that the area is contaminated with radioactive materials, and that radioactive materials came from below ground when the tribes basically came in, took over the oil fields, and they couldn't get the oil. So what they do is they literally cut what we call the Christmas tree. For those who are not familiar with the oil industry, that thing on top from metal that looks like a Christmas tree, basically, that's to cap the well. And they literally cut it, and water was flowing. And these are deep wells, and they have radioactive materials, so the water was flowing throughout the area and contaminated the whole area. The whole area, basically, the population in the area is suffering from women basically aborting babies early. Babies are born with missing limbs, or they have some serious defects and serious problems. Young men are dying early because of severe cases of cancer. So I don't think Syria is going to benefit greatly from that oil. Back to energy, there are several issues that we need to talk about today, and they are important, especially to the oil market. As you know, President Trump imposed sanctions on Lukoil and Rosneft. I don't think that the president and his team really studied this carefully to see what the impact is, because the ramifications are huge. Lukoil is one of the largest operators of oil fields in Iraq. It produces 480,000 barrels of oil in Iraq. And it is the marketer too, which means that it sells that oil. Because of the sanctions now, the Lukoil basically declared for force majeure, and as a result, Iraq lost the 480,000 barrels a day, which is significant, is going to impact prices, is going to affect the balances of the oil market. And what we've seen basically is the Iraqis coming in, replacing the Lukoil with their domestic companies and rescheduling oil ships, etc. I think we will see the impact of this in the coming days on But the idea here is the game of musical chairs continue, and the ripple effect basically continues as we see. So if you look at it right now, we are not going to see massive impact, but we are going to see it over time. And it looks like most of the time it's going to look like the sanctions are backfiring on the Trump administration because the Iraqis are extremely angry. And one of the problems that the Trump administration will face right now is that we have elections in Iraq. And if the tide turns, that is a big problem. The Iraqis need the money. Of course, corruption is rampant. Bottom line on this, that tougher sanctions improve the game of musical chairs. The other issue we have is when we look at the energy mix, we have increased volatility in the energy sector. I'm talking about energy markets in general. I'm not talking about one source in particular. And the reason why, because as we added more renewable energy, we ended up with substitution. And that substitution has
Right here.
ramifications, and we see a ripple effect throughout the world. So here's the problem. For those who are on the extreme side of climate change, on the left side, and they think that the weather is going to get worse and we are going to get more severe weather, if you really believe that, why do you want societies to depend solely on weather-dependent energy sources? Wind, solar, hydro, and biofuel. That's really funny. That does not make any sense. If you really think that things are going to get worse, then you should shy away from weather-dependent energy sources, not do exactly the opposite. And we've seen this ripple effect throughout the world. Wind will stop in England, and all of a sudden natural gas prices go through the roof. We end up with power shortages, and as a result, we see LNG being diverted to Europe from Asia. Then prices in Asia will go up, and then India will go back to coal, just because of wind stops in the UK, and we have enough evidence to show that. So everything I said on this is just an introduction for the news of the day today. Catastrophic failure at Warrata Super Battery in Australia, one of the largest batteries in the world. And what that means, we ended up with, we don't know exactly the extent of this failure, but it means that all the plans to store electricity are gone for now, and that increases volatility. Back to Adabek, in Abu Dhabi, that was in Abu Dhabi. Again, the main lesson was no energy transition, but energy addition. How do we meet the demand for AI? Now the IEA itself, listen to this, the IEA itself is telling us the only way we can meet the AI demand is increased use of natural gas and coal. So for those who are looking for investment opportunities, that's where to go right now in the energy. And we talk about natural gas is mostly LNG. Now, the final point today is this, and for those who are interested, basically we are going to have all the details, all the data, all the charts, and the daily energy report. The media is telling us that Brazil cuts reliance on Russian diesel amid new U.S. oil sanctions. This is a lie. They are telling us that the development comes from Brazil, that where politicians are trying to amend relations with Washington. That is not correct. First of all, Brazil started reducing its diesel imports from Russia 6 months ago when the relations basically were kind of a little bit tough with the Trump administration. But here's the joke. When they reduced their imports from Russia, diesel imports from Russia, they increased their imports from India, who import the Russian crude, convert it to diesel, and then send it to Brazil. But the data shows that U.S. diesel exports or Brazil diesel imports from the U.S. did increase in October, and did increase substantially. That's what the the media are talking about, oh, they are trying to please Trump, Trump's administration. Well, here's the joke. If you look at Brazil, it's the soybean planting season, and Brazil is the largest producer and exporter of soybeans in the world. And all those machineries, basically, they need a lot of diesel. And Brazil always import large amount of diesel in October. Has nothing to do with trying to be nice to Trump. It's just the soybean season. Has nothing to do at all with all the politics that the media is trying to convince us with. And if you look at the shipments after that, the shipments is falling like a rock. That has not reached Brazil yet. So if it's about pleasing Trump, why shipments are falling and not continuing to be at high levels? Back to you.
Go ahead, Eric.
A question for you, Anas. Yesterday we were discussing about the perspective of Europe regarding energy. The U.S. sometimes, that Trump had asked Germany to be dependent on U.S. gas instead of Russian gas, and that the U.S. kind of felt the trade when they refused. My analysis is that it makes much more sense for Germany to take it from Russia. How much more expensive is the American gas versus Russian gas, so that we get an idea of the logical sense in terms of cost?
Yes. Later on, if I get a chance, I'll post an old article regarding this, where from an energy security point of view, what Germany and the Europeans did to some. Listen, it does not make sense at all to depend heavily on U.S. LNG. U.S. LNG should be kind of a large portion of it, but not the way they are going with.
All right. All my meds are taken. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Part of their import is very dangerous from an energy security point of view, even from economic point of view. We have hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico, and some of those hurricanes are extremely destructive, and that is really a serious problem. And we've seen this before. If natural gas prices in the United States go to $7 and $8, we are going to see Ted Cruz and other senators in the Senate basically calling on the government to cap exports to Europe. So the Europeans basically are benefiting from the easy times, but when times are difficult, it's going to be extremely difficult for them. The price is four times the Russian price. Of course, that depends on the period, because Russian price based on the oil contracts are tied to oil prices. So oil prices are high, then the natural gas price is high. But when oil prices are low, like what we see today, then they are low. But in general, it's about four times the price. The Germans are going crazy. And the reason why I'm saying this, because energy prices in Germany is one of the highest in the world, yet they do have long-term contract with Russia to import LNG. But they want to look pretty, they want to look nice, like we are standing with Ukraine, we don't deal with the Russians. So they did arrange with the Russians and the French. So the French will import the LNG on behalf of Germany, regasify that LNG in France, and ship it via pipeline to Germany. So on the books, it looks like they are importing the gas from France, not from Russia. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anas. I'm going to close out with the following. CoreWeave, the data center provider that is backed by NVIDIA, reported results. Its stock is off this morning. It's a volatile stock. There's also a lot of early investors that still need to go ahead and sell some of their shares. But the company did state that it has some delays in its data center build-out. And we will have to see if there is just too much in terms of promise in the data center world and not enough hands, materials, construction capability, and so on. We'll see if this is just a CoreWeave thing or this is more pervasive to lots of other folks in the sector. Again, the demand for chips is high, the demand for data centers is high, the demand for power is high and only going higher. We will have to wait and see. All right, folks, I'm wishing everybody a great day in markets. Thank you very much for a very robust discussion this morning. Follow our speakers. Thank you to the audience for joining us. Spread the word. We will see you here tomorrow morning, Wednesday at 8 a.m. For those of you that celebrate a very meaningful Veterans Day to all of you. Thank you.
You guys are doing okay? Yeah, okay. Is Jeff out of the bed? Do you have any help? Okay, are you sure? Oh, you're sitting really good today. Not like yesterday. Yeah. You Yesterday we was at the H. It was trying to hold the bed. Yeah, it was trying to hold the bed. Like, I could see it. No, it wasn't cold. It was. Here. I did feel bad, yeah. Did you make it to the gas station in time? I did. I was so afraid. I was so scared. You guys told her? What did she say? Oh. No way. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, take us so long. You never get to do that. Yeah. That's true. That is true. I'm glad she came. I'm glad she came back safe. Yeah. Yeah. She could call me anytime or Abdi if she need any help. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got. You didn't have the car. Oh, she did. Yeah. Well. Well, she's safe and okay. That's what we care. I have no idea. She didn't even tell me. Yeah, she did not tell me about it, so I don't know. You okay? You okay? Yeah. All right, boss. Hey Beth, are we leaving today or are we leaving tomorrow? What?
Well, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, somebody's balloon floating.
Balloon?
Yeah, there's a balloon. Somebody's balloon floated away.
Mm.
I was talking about a balloon. Outside.
All right.
Yes, it floated down the street. It hit the...
What up? Not bad. How are you?
All right.
Nice. Feeling better today?
Yeah.
Perfectos. Are we going today?
What?
Is it today or tomorrow?
She's going to physical therapy today.
Oh, what time?
Her appointment's at 11:40.
Okay. So probably,
So we'll be here a little after 10:30 probably.
okay. That works. I'll have to wait you guys until you guys come back, I guess.
Do what?
To help you with the door.
You wait for what? You gonna leave?
I gotta take him.
Oh.
But you guys will be back by then. You doing okay?
Yep. Allergies.
Allergies. Oh man. Feel better. You have anything for it?
Not right now.
No sprays, anything?
No.
What do you usually use it for?
The
Spray?
allergy medication I have. Well, I have one at night. I have another one, a different one in the morning, but insurance doesn't pay for that one.
So you have to buy it.
It's over the counter med.
Did you buy the over-counter that we got it from the doctor?
You mean
The calcium.
the what?
The calcium, was it calcium? I think it was calcium. Over-the-counter calcium.
Vitamin?
Yeah, the
D?
vitamins. Yeah.
No.
Was it vitamin D or was it calcium? I thought it was the calcium.
It was vitamin D.
Okay, the one she gave us that day.
And calcium calcium, I think.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. Trying to figure out if I want some one of those K-cups.
Oh.
You take with us.
and then it sold off into the close, came back, and now we're back up to the same spot. So those the 116s for January yesterday that we took at 160, they are back up to 190 here for January. So plenty of time. I'm still looking for these in the money, but this is I took a little cover yesterday because we sniped that low and it hit that order block, and it just did the exact same move again here this morning. So if it can break this spot here, she can start moving.
Oscar under 4 billion is very interesting.
Yes. You know what else is under 4 billion?
What's that?
MNQ long, 3-minute EMA rip. My bank account, because I'm broke.
Fuck, man. The fuck?
I'm having a good morning, man. The kids are gone. I've had my coffee. Let's go. It's a great day.
That one really got me there. Rivian breaking out higher.
My heat from my downstairs HVAC is fucking up, so.
Bless you.
We got the fireplace going, got the Christmas lights on, some music in the background. It's a little housey. Yeah, it's a very.
Dude, I know. I turned my heater on for the first time in a while, and I was like, dude, is my house on fire? It smelled so burnt.
Dude, yeah, that's what happened here for us. And then lo and behold, one of them, we have two for one for the downstairs and upstairs unit. The upstairs unit never even turned on.
Damn, you got two. Dude, let me get $1. You got two HVAC.
So it's just because it depends on the square footage of your house. So once you, I don't know what the threshold is, but once you cross a certain square footage, then you have to have 2 units.
Yeah, X keeps crashing. I don't know why. Why this platform keeps crashing?
Fucking up a little bit.
That's Elon Musk. 1 trillionaire. 1 trillionaire. 1 trillion. Is it 1 trillionaire? He can fix his platforms, can he?
Who is?
Elon Musk. He got approved to receive $1 trillion if the company performs beyond expectations. He will be more wealthier than he is already. He will be the first trillionaire ever existed. No more billions. We will be talking about the trillionaires. That's how worthless money is becoming. Worthless money and greed.
We can call, who picks up and make sure I'm on there?
What?
We can call whoever picks us up.
Oh, Kato.
Yeah.
I can.
You doing okay?
Yeah.
You want me to do?
What?
Okay.
Whatever she's doing, I can do it.
Oh, she got to call for a ride.
Oh yes, to confirm whether I can ride with you guys.
Yeah.
Or this morning.
Today.
For this morning?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's also do it tomorrow. Can we also do it tomorrow to ask them if they can ride with you guys?
No, I mean.
Huh? Jeff.
You talking about when she goes to Corville?
Yeah. Yes.
She's only allowed one person to ride with her.
So I can't.
No.
How did you know? Abdi said we have to check it.
We already know. We already checked on that a long time ago.
Oh.
Yes, this is Becky.
Okay.
I was going to see if there was an additional
That is sad.
feature added for today's
Your
ride.
insurance
Policy.
Past the arrow. We asked the insurance if we're allowed how many people are allowed, and we're only allowed one extra person.
I understand. It's a policy issue and risk.
Yep.
Like if accidents or stuff happens.
Yep.
Man, that would be sad. I don't want to drive all the way there.
Okay, thank you. Yep, no, you're not added.
Vehicle insurance.
It's gonna be too late to add you.
He can't go with you?
Not today.
Oh, you mean tomorrow?
Today.
Damn.
He's going with me.
Well, you might want to check. Let me try that in for tomorrow. When we're picking tomorrow.
Unknown caller.
It's already unknown caller. Why do I need to answer?
It is J&J, but you were told, the guy said you could go tomorrow, but I need to verify with, I was told, okay, the guy, he can't go. Because I don't wanna be like.
Remember a while back we asked about it, about a year ago, we asked about it, and a couple years ago, we asked about it, and they said, for insurance reasons, only one extra person allowed.
Yeah, but, FDG tell me to call and get that information to see if I can get him added.
Well, then call or MTM, whatever.
I have to call Iowa to look here.
Well, you know.
Yes, I do.
Because it will have it.
Welcome to Iowa Total Care.
I can't call MTM.
Yes, you can.
How?
Phone number?
What phone number?
The phone. I gave you that phone number.
The phone number that you gave me said that it was no longer in service.
I have another number.
I'm not gonna argue with you.
Or call number is in the MTM map. For where it says contact us. There's one over there.
what
out here in Michigan. You guys hear her? Nope. And it's gone. Did you ever see the South Park where he deposits his money into the bank and it's gone? Immediately gone.
Sorry, hold on. Were you talking about crypto on 1010 there? What was that reference?
And it's gone. Yeah, that would be it. If that makes it to South Park, we'll know that we're official.
Yes, South Park's gotten a lot right lately. That's for damn sure. But yeah, no, their crypto episode was hysterical, and it's one of the things that when you believe about meme coins like I do, I find it very funny. I'm sure there are a lot of people who look at it who watched that and thought, oh, that's not true. But whatever. Anyway, we're stalling it. But I'm just curious, Scott. I mean, you've been talking to a lot of people, and so have I. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen more cognitive dissonance in this market in the 8 years that I've been involved. I don't think that I've seen anything like this, where everyone believes it's crypto winter, and you look up at the prices, and at least in the case of Bitcoin and several of the others, it's not remotely wintry. I mean, it's
pretty bad, for the mid to small cap altcoins. And I think that that's where most people are playing. And I think, as you've pointed out many times, like October 10th is way worse than we think. So I think in this case, yeah, sentiment is less about the price of Bitcoin, certainly, than it is about a lot of, I think Rand Neuter said to me on Saturday that 1.1 million individual people had their full accounts liquidated on October 10th. It's a lot of people to lose all their money, or at least all the money they had in an account.
It's I hate to say it, but it's there are a lot of Bitcoin maxis out there that are saying, yeah, well, this is what should happen.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, I don't believe that, although I find it amusing that the XRP maxis all think that they're the
Gary just showed up. Perfect timing. Go Dave.
What did you say?
I said Gary just showed up right as you mentioned that. It's like you summoned him. Go ahead.
Well, I was in the audience listening, and you guys have some gaps in the conversation. I thought I'd throw my.
You basically came to save us. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
So you're saying the show is back. Thank you, Gary.
But the good news is XRP is going to be over $10 within a couple of weeks because of the new ETFs. That's what I'm hearing.
By the way, I think those ETFs will perform exceptionally well.
Oh, I think they'll do well. I don't think that XRP is going to quadruple, but it's or whatever. I mean, the Kool-Aid in that community is incredibly strong. But
what would quadruple would be how much XRP Ripple would want to sell to fund their other business operations.
No, that's actually
the joke, guys. Don't get mad.
But yeah, I mean, it is the macro situation is very leaning towards need for liquidity because of so many things. It's why the stock market is doing so well. The real cognitive dissonance is the stock market's so close to all-time highs, and crypto going through this, both reacting to the same sets of news. And when I say crypto, I'm really talking about Bitcoin because I don't think there's an argument over the use case of Bitcoin. Lots of other assets in the crypto sphere, there's lots of arguments over what will happen, and you can look at it. But so when you look at the aggregate, it's interesting. But I think that cognitive dissonance is amazing.
Jay, can we get back? Can you guys hear me now? I've had to come up and come down. Awesome. Hey, so the 1 million people that lost all their net worth.
At least all of them was in their account. I can't speak to them.
But see, I think this is very important because I saw that and I hear what Rand's saying. I think you've washed out a bunch of crypto players, but let's identify how much money was in the account on average. If it's $5,000, dude, it's they were going to get pushed out anyway, right? Like it may just not be that meaningful because it most certainly is not going to spur or spool up the next bull market. The crypto bros. You see what I'm saying? I mean, 1 million people that lost all their money. I didn't get washed out.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying and agree. Still,
I mean, 10 guys that lose $10 million each, that's one thing, right? But,
yeah.
Just don't know if it's that meaningful.
I mean, it's also important to understand that, because we were having a conversation last night with James Wynn, and he effectively said, you know, agreed that our perception is accurate, which is when you look at words like 1.1 million accounts liquidated, understand that smart traders use accounts and wallets the same, you know, in order to make perp trades into limited loss vehicles. So let me explain. If you buy an option, you could buy 20 different options in your one account at, you know, Charles Schwab, Ameritrade, whatever, it doesn't matter. And you can only lose the option premium if you're buying options. If you're selling them, well, that's a different story. But let's just go with the buying options. And so it's a limited loss vehicle. With perps, let's say you put, you know, you put, you know, your entire life savings into one single account. Well, yeah, then you're wiped out. But what if you make bets with 2% of your portfolio and you create one wallet for that, and that gets wiped out? I think a lot of that happens. I think there are a lot of people, and you know, James Wynn being kind of the archetype for this, who do high leverage bets on small percentages of their portfolio. And you know, whether you believe that he has that much money or not, him in particular doesn't matter. That there could be a lot of that. So that 1.1 million wallets doesn't necessarily mean 1.1 million people. But there's no doubt in my mind, because I said this at the time and I still believe it, that was an enormously important washout for levered plays on altcoins. And I think that is a very big deal. And absent new money, you got to believe that there's going to be some damage to be worked through there.
I'm trying to lift my mic and it's not even working, but here we are. Yeah, I think it's a big deal. Regardless of the size of the accounts, I just think there's not that many people passionately trading crypto, and if all of them get washed at once, it's going to take a long time for that dust to settle. That said, Gary, to your point, that's not where the future demand is coming from. But it is where the future demand for altcoins might be coming from.
No, but it's also, it is the blood that we need that fuels our machine, right? So like, it's not the demand. We washed out guys who weren't going to be our demand anyways, and now we have a bunch of sidelined people that truly we need, right? That we need a certain percentage of crypto Twitter to be sidelined for us to go to certain levels. I mean, at least that's been my experience.
I just don't think it's easy to replace 1 million people.
Well,
no, I don't think it's 1 million people, but yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's not nothing, but it also, we have the demand from elsewhere coming.
How much money got lost in Luna, Scott?
How many deck of millionaires are being made from Bitcoin? For every little $5,000 wallet, I know guys that are worth a shitload of money. They're making really powerful moves in the market that wasn't available to anyone 10 years ago, guys. To me, it's like what a lawyer just said. I think that's his name. I think that's right, dude. The blood, it fertilizes the soil, and it strengthens the whole market. I've never seen a market grow without blood.
Yeah, there's always.
I'm honored you know my name.
I think that it's just very hard to imagine, Dave, even with the sentiment that we're headed into a brutal bear market right now.
Well, look, my thesis at the beginning of the year is that was, and it still is, because it's a multi-year horizon, is that there needs to be a rotation inside of this technology that's going to do so much, from complete hype to defined cases or defined value. And I think that that's happening. I think it's a brutal process when it happens. I mean, I was talking last night with a guy who made no sense in some of the things he said, but he was going through and talking about the internet bubble and the parallels. And, you know, people aren't going to make the same mistake of ignoring Amazon's business and bringing it down to the levels that it got down to. But
At the same time, people are also not going to ignore that there were literally 90+% of all the companies that were called internet companies went kaboom. I mean, gone. Some for scraps and pennies on the dollar, some outright zeros. I mean, there was quite a lot of money that evaporated because there was no value there. And so the markets are always trying to learn from this. There's lots of differences, but understand that that's going on. At the same time, Bitcoin, I think at this point, I believe it's reached escape velocity. Now, I may be wrong. Clearly, market is pricing it at at least a 90% discount to gold. I think that it's inevitable that the growth of the network is going to get there. If you believe that, and there's a lot of new money out there coming in that believes that, that's where the bid is coming from Bitcoin. At the same time, we have what is clearly a very large, very concentrated distribution phase going on where OG holders are cashing out. No, not completely, but a lot. And Gary and I, we were talking about this last night. That's what's defining this trading range. It's the irresistible force meets the immovable object. The difference is the size of Bitcoin is so small relative to the financial system that there is no doubt that there will ultimately be more bid from the financial system than there is supply from the OG community. It's just a question of when. It's not a question of if. At least that's
But it's also a question of where it flows, right? So to your point, I literally said on TV yesterday that Bitcoin has reached exit velocity. So I clearly agree with that exact sentiment. I think the crypto community as a whole, though, is wondering how much of that can trickle down past Bitcoin.
100%. And that, the fact that we never got an alt season, that we did. The alt season it went into, frankly, gold and silver on CFDs, and it went into crypto equities and digital asset treasuries and whatnot, and flamed out. But the truth is that natural rotation, because we had an insular community, once the community went not insular anymore, didn't happen the way that it had the last 3 times, and there are a lot of people holding their bags. That's the truth. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be rotation into really amazing technology that people believe is going to facilitate enormous amounts of wealth. But it does mean that this broad catch-all, throw it dart in any crypto that's going to go up is going to be harder. Now, all of that said, look at the correlation to Bitcoin's moves, and you see that there's still quite a bit of that. So it's not like it's gone, it's less magnified, and the rotational aspects are less obvious. I think that's more right. Does that make sense, or am I kind of, missing it about?
I think it makes sense.
Right, but I mean, we're definitely seeing that.
I mean, is there anybody on stage who has a passionate belief on where that money might flow beyond Bitcoin? I think the very obvious answer is ETH, Solana, XRP, anything that's in the top 10 and gets an ETF and a treasury company, right? I mean, that's sort of been the path, but what's the path to point number 27 or 35 catching a serious bid?
Well, it's worth talking about Zcash, right? In terms of what's going on there. Don't you think?
I'm torn on that one. I would love people's opinion because what I can see and hear whispers of behind the scenes, it was somewhat of a coordinated maneuver by a bunch of large names in crypto who said, what dinosaur can we bid and talk about and send up 10x, and that worked. But then there is obviously the compelling privacy narrative behind it and the fact that it can be built on. So I don't know the answer. Gareth, you have a love that you jumped up. Go ahead, Gareth.
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, I'm enjoying the conversation so far, and I thought I'd just chuck up my hand as well and join when you were kind of talking about where things go to from here. And I know you guys chat a lot to Matt Hoogan from Bitwise, and we had him on our show, Chain Reaction, a couple of weeks ago. And I just really loved his comments about, the actual real arrival of institutional investment and what that actually means for, the next couple of years. And I find it interesting that a lot of people are saying that, we don't know what's going to happen with the cycle now, or as a load of people have been washed out. And if you listen to people like Matt, he's basically saying like, don't even worry about that because the institutional investment space is trillions of dollars worth of assets that's slowly going to start to flow into our industry, courtesy of Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs. We've got Solana staking ETFs, which came out recently, and that gives a lot of institutional investors that not only want to invest in the underlying asset, but have a chance to earn yield, which they couldn't before, as a pretty compelling, investment opportunity that I think a lot more people are going to take. So my general view on that is that's what's happening. And then I just caught the tail end of sort of the Zcash comments, and we've been delving into this a lot as well on our show because I've just found it really interesting. I saw like about 3 months ago when Mert and a few other people on Twitter or X started talking about, Zcash, and I was very curious. And I thought, maybe we should start talking about this back then. And then obviously that narrative just exploded. And in the last 2 weeks, we had Zcash up to like $700 and this privacy narrative backing it. I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. I'm still not convinced that it's completely organic. And I do feel like there was some sort of a coordinated effort by all of these people to pump up this token in particular. But at the same time, I think that there's a very compelling narrative for Zcash. And like, I spoke to Eddie Ben-Sasson, who is one of the co-authors of the Zero Cash protocol, which is what Zcash runs on. And essentially what they were trying to, solve there was a way to do Bitcoin transactions privately. But at the time, we don't have opcats and those kind of things, so you couldn't really do it that way. And that's why Zcash was born. There is a compelling use case for it, but I still don't think anything comes close, everything else is just cut from a different cloth from Bitcoin, and I still fundamentally believe that. And it's going to be interesting to see how that narrative plays out. And if you're interested in hearing the whole conversation and the history behind it, we have the full conversation on my X account, so if you want to go and check that out, it's right at the top of my account. But it's a compelling argument, but I would love to see all of this happen on Bitcoin so we can use Bitcoin, and if you want to use it with a lot more sort of privacy functionality, hopefully, the Bitcoin development ecosystem will onboard that. But overall, I don't really know what's going to happen in 2026, but I'm not convinced that everything's just going to die and it's going to be a terrible bear market for a long period of time. I think those days are behind us, and I do believe Matt Hugin when he says there's just so much institutional capital waiting to come into the space. It'll flow into Bitcoin primarily, and there'll be a handful of the most valuable protocols that will be the big winners in the next few years, and that's purely driven by the utility that they give us, taking the stock markets on chain and those kind of things.
Gareth, how deeply have you guys been looking into, well, I mean, it's brand new news, but I guess we knew it was coming, the Coinbase pre-launch platform and the fact that they're launching